We will begin with a 10-mile run.
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Dude, it's Shark Week.
That's probably not the best use of our resources.
And we all know how that story ends.
Yes! I'm not going to die alone! Yeah! 5 stars! Suck it!
I've had more drugs to eat today than food. That can't be healthy. Thanks, boss.
This game. I hit a zombie in the face. You did? Nice job.
Welcome
To the Homebodies with Vern Bradley.
Oh boy, welcome to whatever this is. It's February 17th, 2021, and it's your daily escape from your newsfeed to join your fellow homebodies and talk about all the stories that nobody is talking about. The global health crisis is extremely important, with over 138 million vaccinations worldwide and 55 million in the United States. And I advise you to use the amazing online resources to keep you and your community safe and informed. But here on the Homebodies, we're going to leave all that to the experts. And I invite you to turn it off for an hour-ish and talk about something other than the one thing everybody is talking about with your fellow homebodies on our daily show. You can join the conversation in our Discord channel and even call into the show at homebodies.live or homebodies.live. If you're just seeing me, I'm actually on Instagram for the first time in a hot minute, maybe 2 hot minutes. I was over on Clubhouse for a minute, and it was a thing we did for a minute. I kind of missed the actual interaction part. Not that there's not random people that jump into your room, raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be talking now live while I'm driving. But this seems more fun and more coming to you where you are natively. So we're on Instagram, we're on the YouTube, we're on the Twitch, we're on the Twoodles, we're on all the places that I know where to be and where I've engaged a healthy audience before. And of course, we've got our Discord at homebodies.live. That's homebodies.live. Coming up in the show today, we've got Novid news, of course. That's viral stories, not about a virus. We've got our virtual video village, which is making an indie film in quarantine in chronological order, improvising the story, rehearsing the next scene, filming it sort of as best we can with 4 hands, and then editing clips together and showing them to you as our virtual video village so you can become our virtual crew and virtual cast. You can actually join the show by doing all sorts of things. Hello to everybody in the chat. Who is this we? It's us, the homebodies. We are all homebodies. I'm a homebody, you're a homebody, or at least most of us are homebodies. If you're not, then congrats on your vaccine. Congrats on living large. Congrats on living the life. Please still be safe because the rest of us are just waiting to get back to work. I'm going to start today's show, though, with our future stages segment. It's a peek behind the digital curtain to my experiments and the experiments of others in virtual storytelling. And I am very excited to be joined today by Kelly Lynn Hayes, who's a scenic designer who has pivoted aggressively into the virtual space. Kelly, welcome to the Homebodies.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Thanks so much for being willing to have a conversation about all this virtual nonsense on an actual virtual live stream.
Yeah, I can maybe go about all of this for like 6 hours. So
perfect.
I'm going to try and condense.
Everyone grab a snack. We're here for the long haul. Just for the audience, let them know I have found you because you are possibly, to me, the most prolific scenic designer as far as the online space. I'm constantly seeing your post.
It's very nice.
You promoting other shows. Your
the Twitter algorithm.
It's incredible. It's working. I mean, especially lifting up voices, people who maybe weren't part of the traditional commercial theater ecosystem who are now having opportunities to actually get their stories staged on a non-traditional stage. So I'm loving everything you're doing. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. So can you just unpack? To me, you are from Twitter, but where are you actually from? Tell me a little
Yeah, I'm a set designer based in Philadelphia. The way I kind of got into all of this was I actually was really into immersive theater before all of this COVID stuff happened. And I was introduced to the Philadelphia Immersive Theater Group when I was trying to like do some fringe stuff, basically. Philadelphia Fringe. And I went to like a panel in the city that they held, and it was just like in this conference room. And it was with Jessica Crone, I believe, and Kat Hinkle. I should have looked up their names before I came here. I'm so sorry to them. I don't know their last names that well, but Jessica is responsible for Chaos Theory, if any of you have heard of that. It's in New York. Also, they've been doing something really cool, so like go follow all of her socials, because apparently they're doing something really cool with Chaos Theory right now. But yeah, aside from that, I'm a very early set designer. My first set design was literally in June because of COVID. COVID canceled our first show, and I had to pivot it to virtual because my director, Merle, just is one of those really cool people who doesn't quit and is like, well, we couldn't do that, so now we're going to do it virtually. And I was like, I guess we're doing it virtually.
Tell me a little bit about that process, because I feel like when I bring people on the show, my big thing is to kind of talk about devising theater by breaking it down into kind of 6 key considerations to bringing a production virtual. And the first one is the design. Because there's so much that we don't think about in the virtual space that we now have to literally generate and create, because we don't even have the house anymore, the structure, the theater, the stage. Can you talk a little bit about what it was to take something that you were originally intending to put physically in physical space and bring it virtual?
Yeah. I will say that it helped that like I knew basically nothing. I come from an architecture background. I graduated 2.5 years ago, I guess at this point, 2018. And then I've kind of been like circling the, the free internships and the PA jobs and all of that fun stuff. And it's really about finding friends and finding people who like doing the things you do, and then your friends hire you. That is very true. And so like Meryl was a friend who worked with me on a PA job. And so what I thought about most was we did The Dumb Waiter, which is a show about these 2 assassins who are waiting to get their job, basically. And that's the show. It's like it's pretty short. And we really wanted another character to be like the dumb waiter, because my friend was just like, is there any way that you can get the dumb waiter to like move? And I was like, sure.
That's awesome.
So I made an animation, and then we were on Zoom specifically. I always say specifically, I'm a Zoom digital designer.
Okay.
Because if you don't limit yourself, you'll literally explode when it comes to virtual design, because there are just so many options that you can do. I don't know, there's another Philadelphia theater experience that was called Thicket, which again was like brought up in that space as well. And that was like also a Zoom show, but then you went on to Utopia. And I don't know if your listeners are familiar with that platform, but it's like basically like you have an avatar and it's distance and audio, like it's distance based. So if you walk toward another avatar, your camera will start to show up, and so will your audio. And so that was like an experience. It was basically like a lobby in a video game. So like there are just so many opportunities to do everything. So I always just like reserve it for Zoom. But I mean, that's kind of how my design processes go, is I kind of assess what the story is. And then through that, it's very architecture. I like come up with all of these rules, and I'm like, okay, if a moment is important, I'm going to break these rules, or something else is going to have to happen to kind of like establish that it's important. Another design I did, which it might be easier to explain, the Zoom design, is I did She Kills Monsters.
Yes.
And if anybody's familiar with that, because it seemed to have really blown up, the author, Q, actually like adapted their show to be virtual. We maybe change a few things to fit virtual better, who's to say? But we really enjoyed the show. Is basically Agnes, her sister Tilly, dies, and then Agnes is revisiting who her sister was through D&D, through this journal that Tilly kept. So in our world, we used a lot of Zoom backgrounds, and they were all carefully crafted in Photoshop and color coordinated. So I do this new technique called tiling, where I would basically take like the zoom. So picture like this is zoom. So like I would have one puzzle piece, and then Brendan would have the other puzzle piece, and then they would fit together, except it would be with 5 screens or 10 screens, or in our case, in the big dragon fight, it was 12 screens that we puzzle pieced together. That was a 2-hour, good for everybody who was in that. It was a 2-hour effort to like coordinate that fight. And then
is that all being done on one computer, like one stage manager is puzzling?
no,
You have like 12 people capturing to be able to then put it together on one screen.
No, so this is what's really different that I didn't realize, because when I first found, so the software I use is OBS. The first software that I ever found was OBS. And actually, I made all the actors learn OBS, because I say that OBS, that is the new blocking. So like actors are like, we don't have to like, you know, walk anywhere anymore because it's just this. And I'm like, your new blocking is your own tech. That's your new blocking. And so, you know, all of the super cool things that you can do with technology, you just open the door once like the actor kind of like can do their own tech, and they can kind of cue themselves in a way too. Just like I say that like digital theater is a valid form of theater, because to me it's live. Like all of those things that you would have on stage where people are like, oh, like it's so cool that like when Lin-Manuel Miranda went up for Hamilton, he forgot his own lyrics. And isn't that so funny? Like that's something that can happen, you know, on this is like somebody can be muted. Somebody could not make their entrance. Somebody could freeze. That's live theater. That's reigniting what is so special about live theater. And to me, like, that's what keeps me like being like, this is theater, this is digital theater. But that's I hope that answered your question.
It does. I mean, I'm nerding out because as an actor, I saw OBS for the first time, and I agree with you. I was like, oh, I can take on this workflow, and then I can control a lot of elements. And I even got to the point that I did a show where I queued over 70 cues from my cell phone while I was performing on stage. And it was so cool to be able to do that live, and it did feel equally thrilling. Like I knew there's an audience behind that camera, and I'm choreographing to hit certain light cues or projection cues or scenic cues that like their experience of the show. Tell me a little bit more. So like, how much do you give over to the actors to be cueing? Are they just kind of replacing backdrops and doing sizing, or are they doing full, you know, cueing of themselves, and then you're just literally receiving that feed? Can you talk a little bit about that workflow?
Yeah, I mean, it really ranges, and it also, like, to be honest, it ranges on their setups, because if their computer can't handle OBS, then we don't do OBS. And I say we'll work around it, or I'll figure something out, or, you know, because we're all in this time where like I'm the only one who kind of really understands the tech, and so I don't want to overwhelm actors if they have lines to memorize, or you know, that's not my thing. The goal is not to be difficult. The goal is to like, so
not? That's weird. We're doing a really good job of the difficult part.
Yeah, but I think that what I mostly do is I have another show that I wrote for quarantine called, I call it the Gay Heist Show because it's funnier that way. But it's called The Life and Crimes of the Rainbow Collective, and it's about a group of hackers, international hackers, who are all queer and BIPOC, because why wouldn't I make that happen if I was writing it? So that's basically like the whole gist of it, is that the actors all have to do their own tech. They are all responsible for their own like tech sequences. And so we're looking to maybe like workshop it in a way, we think, because the tech becomes as important as the acting and as everything happening. But like the cool thing is that everything's integrated. So you see, like, you hear clicking from a character. Well, they're a hacker. That's what they do. They're on their computer. And like the experience of being one-to-one to the camera now becomes, oh, you're the 7th hacker, or you're the 7th, you know, you're the 7th member of that team. And so I think that that is like the new experience that specifically in Zoom, I'm locking into, especially writing into. I just think that those connections are so interesting, and nobody's experimenting with them and no one's doing anything. I literally found Brendan through like a different show I want to do that has to do with VR. So, yeah. Who's
Cool.
everything gay? Correct.
That's Spencer. Yes, make everything gay.
Correct.
I'd be curious about what is for you, what is so compelling about Zoom as a platform? Because you've really now identified yourself just now as like, I am a Zoom designer. And I think that's so cool to be that specialized. Do you see it being different than streaming to Twitch or streaming to YouTube Live or to Today Tix or, some like, ticketing platform that has their own built-in player like the Actors Fund did for Ratatouille? What do you think is that difference between specifically a Zoom audience and other kind of 2D live platforms?
Well, I think naming all of the digital stuff that's been happening so far, specifically like Circle Jerk was a streaming platform. They did that on Vimeo. Specifically, Ratatouille was a pre-recorded thing that was put together. Specifically, the Mad Ones Lab, while having a lot of really cool ideas, was really awesome in seeing the various ways that people kind of interpreted what it is, which is like some people did film, some people like fully went outside. I thought it was really interesting on the application. They were like, how are you going to be COVID safe? And I'm like, how am I going to be COVID safe? It's all on Zoom. And then I realized afterward that people were like meeting up, which, I have no comment on, but
I think you do, and that's okay because I probably agree with you.
Well, my mom's a nurse, and so I do not believe in getting together in any capacity. So like you'll see me very vocal on Twitter being like, I don't think anybody should be talking about this. Instead, we should be talking about the art form that we can create and make accessible. But instead, we're all talking about when are we going back to theater? And I just think that that's like, you're only making yourself more sad.
Yeah.
That's like, everyone is just like, I wish we could go back to theater. And I'm like, you're literally just making yourself more sad. Like, look for the other theater that's happening, because it's happening and it's good theater.
Yes.
Gotta look for it. And you can't just keep complaining every time you see like a reading on Zoom. But the reason that I feel so specialized is because there are all of these other forms. Specifically for me, again, I will say that to me, digital theater, virtual theater requires live elements. And that's what I love about Zoom, is that it's live. And you can, of course, do like streaming on, I've been looking at streaming on Twitch and I've been looking at streaming on YouTube. But the thing that I'm worried about is the way that OBS works and the plugging in from Zoom into other things. If Zoom can plug into other things, or you can do like Skype and plug that into other things where there's like a chat function and there's like a Zoom, like that kind of element, then like that's fine. I'm more interested in that than I am in like the film thing of it.
Yes.
Like I'm not too interested in the film because I'm very theater. So it's skating to me.
Me too, and I straddle both. Like I am an independent filmmaker and I'm a theater producer and theater creator first and foremost. That's how I got started. And for me, I feel like what's been so weird and frustrating about this kind of virtual theater movement, at least in North America, is that I feel like people want to make bad TV or bad movies. They're like, did you know we could do videos online? And I'm like, yes, it's web series. We've been doing it for a decade. Stop. If you want to make a web series, there's no shame in that. I've made a lot of them. Go make those. But that is not theater. That is, to your point, there is something different about the liveness, the interactivity, the immersion, the engagement with an audience, whether or not it's, a direct address, like an improv show, or whether it's just the awareness of crafting an experience and a narrative for an audience that is present and synchronous. Like that is than making a web series that is going to live on YouTube forever and just have people stumble upon it. That's a very different experience. Do you think that there is space for kind of what you're describing, where you're like, if Zoom took on these additional features? I know there's it's not called Zoom OBS, but it's called something like that. But that it has like kind of like additional features or kind of additional packages to be able to port audio and video from other sources and a bit more live. Do you see there being a space for a platform like that? Or do you think that it is going to just kind of are people so focused on getting back to normal that it's just going to kind of become the archival 2.0 once theaters are allowed to reopen?
Yeah, I would very much like to make the mark on virtual theater because I think that it's important, and I think that it's a really important tool. I think that it's really, I have been talking about like developing new works, specifically because I'm developing my own new works, which still sounds so weird to me whenever I talk about it. But one of my favorite things that one of my other like shows that I've done like on a completely different scale or a completely different thing is like these 6 roommates who are going to college. And this is obviously pre-COVID times. And they're planning on having a party. And I say that it's Waiting for Godot, but it's a bunch of college kids because they're just waiting for a party. And basically what happens is it is the way that the camera functions, the character of the camera or the character of you is that you're kind of watching these kids like on camera. And the whole fun part is that it's implied that all of these kids are in the same apartment building, but really it's 6 different actors in 6 different spaces. So you'll have moments where actors will like reach over and they'll be like, playing with the perception of kind of space and time.
Yeah.
Like you're looking over and you're like, hey, like Julie, can you go get me a wine glass? And you have a prop table. The actor has a prop table, but then the actor can get up, walk away from the camera, walk across camera with a wine glass, and then just hand over like not even be on the camera. And you can say, thanks, Julie. And then that actor is cued by that audio sound to go all the way back to where they are. So like, there's a lot like, and that is completely different from the way that I'm approaching like the Gay Heist show. And I think that those kinds of narratives and those kinds of designs are something that like, I'm not willing to give up yet at all. Especially since I wrote them. But I'm learning that I'm falling in love with these characters and I do not want to let them go.
Absolutely. Do you have the Gay Heist show spun up anywhere? Is it in workshops? Like now I think everybody in the chat wants to see it. So like, is there a plug? Let's skip to the plug part because I want to watch it. Tell me when preview.
Oh my God. Well, so the Heist show is still in workshop. We had our first reading. So I wrote it with a friend. Her name's Rory Eggleston. And we wrote it together. I wrote it after She Kills Monsters because I won an award from La Mama. I won the honorable mention, although it's not recorded anywhere because so I have the email to prove it. So if you want the email, send me an email. I'll send you a screenshot of the email. It exists, but which makes me very mad. But I won for She Kills Monsters, and I was like, and then I got an article from Token Theater Friends, and I was like, here comes everyone. I can just sit down.
Oh, never.
Be great. Nope. And
that's not how the industry ever works.
Nope. And I got so mad that I wrote a play about it and about what I was trying to do. And so since November, I've written 4 shows. Because that's awesome. It's been maddening. So they're all in development, all of them, in various capacities. Some have had readings, some are still being written. The Gay Heist show is probably the one that's closest. I would have to say you just have to follow me on Twitter for updates because we're working on getting grants. We're working on getting the name out there. We're working on being this is a valid art form. We promise. It's so cool. Please just watch it because that's what it is. It's just people talking good about the things that you do, and hoping that gets out there.
Well, to spread that, this is Kelly Lynn Hayes. You can follow her on Twitter where?
Twitter it's Kelly Lynn Hayes, I believe. And then on Instagram, it's Kelly Lynn Hayes Designs.
And then what's your website?
And the website is just it's Kelly and Lynn Hayes.
Okay.
Lynn is spelled Lin. So it's Kelly, KELLYNANNE, Lynn, LIN, Hayes, HAYES. And that's one word. There's no anything. It's .com because I bought that domain from Squarespace.
Where do you go to get exposed to new theater? Because what I find so for me frustrating about the Zoom platform specifically is it isn't a discovery platform. It was never intended for this. So we're
No.
for something that wasn't intended for.
No, it was not.
How do you curate and discover new work in the space when there isn't like a library or, you know, a directory of like cool new theater in XR?
I literally just watch everything virtual. Anything that's virtual, even
How
if
do you
it's
find out about it?
Oh man. I mean, at this point, it's the immersive group. So if I would say follow No Proscenium, follow literally anything that is virtual or immersive, and they will tell you what is happening. And then I basically just follow with what's happening there. I'm also, like I said before, involved in the immersive theater chapter specifically in Philadelphia, and so they have a whole Facebook group, and so I'm like with them, and I hear everything that's happening there. We also have like meetings. It's really cute, and we say hi. And then I also just like have a lot of friends who are doing cool things now because of virtual. I would be, I would love, my heist show that we had a reading for in December. I unfortunately like don't have that many queer BIPOC friends. I only had about like 2 or 3 because it's like it's an is it an intersection of stories and people. So I literally put out a please be in my reading. And I got 5 cool mutuals out of it, and they're now all doing stuff. And they all like, one of them is now writing the other show with me. The one about the college kids is now writing a show with me. And that's kind of like what I found is the best. There's another show by the Barn Theater. It's called the Secret Society of Leading Ladies, and it's going to be available to internationally stream, and it was like conceived by the guy who played one of our characters in the show, named Tiger. Tiger is not the actual person's name. His actual name is Ryan Carter. He's really, really, really cool. You should absolutely follow him because he's doing a lot of cool stuff in the UK, and he's like, there are certain theater companies that are looking for it, but they don't necessarily know how to do it. I know people have been recommending that I shop around in theater companies in Philadelphia as well to see if they'll do my work, but it's like really hard because I have an architecture degree, and also this is new theater, and also people don't believe in it. And so it's really like me just shopping around and just coming up with new ideas. Like I come up with new ideas and then I like write them down, and then I turn them into shows as fast as I can. Basically.
And what do you think the hurdle is? Because you're describing this process that I think we've all experienced if you're on the creative end, where you're like, no, believe me, this is a thing. And it's so hard to convince somebody of something that doesn't exist, right? But
yeah.
Now in this place where anybody can spin up from home the whole thing on sweat equity, and it can stream anywhere in the world, and there are monetization layers built in on some of these platforms, or the ability to sell tickets on a third-party software, yada, yada. What do you think that hurdle is in just getting the thing going?
Right? Oh, it's absolutely visibility.
Okay.
Easy. It's visibility easily. And that is, that's like why I believe in like people talking about things and just not stopping. That's why I've announced 6 shows already, 6 virtual things that have happened and are still continuing to happen. Or shows that are upcoming, because I believe in just telling people about shows and then them going to see it and then them hopefully spreading the word. And it's like the higher you go and like the more visible you become, it's not about fame. It's not about even being validated for your art form. It's about getting those like views on your work, because it's, and I think that that's something that like a lot of people do like mistake for things like, oh, like you just want to be famous, or like you just want to, get out, like you don't care about the art. It's like, I do care about the art. That's why I want the views, because I know that if you don't talk about it, people aren't going to see it. And then it's like, because as much as I love people and I love my friends and I love my family and they believe in what I'm doing, and that's great.
That's huge.
It is. It's huge. It means, if only 10 people see it and they don't say to anybody, like, go see this show, what's the point of it? Like, well, especially to me, especially if I'm trying to to bring visibility to BIPOC artists specifically,
Right.
who have mountains more to climb when it comes to getting their work seen and being taken seriously. I think it's like really important that we talk about visibility in a very frank way, because I have talked with other people about it, and they get like humble, and they're especially like people with large audiences, and they get like humble, and they're like, I'm just a simple person who's, you know, I'm a normal person. A lot of them are like said to like very cool like production people who I've been talking to, and I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that like you're, you know, not a humble person if you talk. I was like, I don't even know what you're saying. I'm just telling you to boost something.
Right.
Like is you know, and so
Do you think there's a trap to, because we've turned everything into a metric? Some ways, you know, look at Netflix, for example, which I think has been one of the most successful companies. We can get into the business model, which I have a lot of opinions about, but I think that overall from a output perspective, what is fascinating about them as a company is they've always maintained an increasing price point. So they keep making the work cost more for the consumer, right? They're not going to Disney Plus where they're like, just take it, please sign up. But they also hide their numbers. They're like, no, we're not going to report these numbers because we're not going to sit here and debate with you whether or not those are good numbers. And what I find really interesting is, you know, my first web series, I got out there, I got some noise, I kind of leveraged everything so I would never make $1 on it so that it could get seen. And we were pulling in like 10,000 people a day to watch the show, which was awesome. But then I had friends who did like smaller web series that got like 100 people ever that watched it. But one of those people was Ellen DeGeneres, and then they got a pilot deal out of it. Like, so there is this conversation of like, when we try to hold ourselves to this artificial metric of like that equals success or that equals noise, there is something to the like Ed Helms 10,000 true fans, right? Or the like the core community that actually believes in the work and will show up again and again and again. And to your point, will signal boost it rather than being like, oh yeah, I think I heard about that. I mean, can you speak at all to like, is there something to, especially when you're talking about like the Zoom theater, the empowerment of like, you don't know the numbers. It was successful because we said it was successful, not because you saw some view count, you know, 3 months in.
Yeah, I think that there's this show called Our Offering that I'm sure, I don't know if you followed me around Christmas time, but I was only yelling about that show. It's called Our Offering, and then it's the second one was a Christmas Offering, which was on Christmas, and that's conceived by Sis, who is a Black trans actress who is actually like super cool. A lot of like, you know, could argue a lot of what I'm doing was set in motion by her, specifically being like, just make the work and people will find, like, if you make it, then you can't complain because at least you made it and people will find it. Because if you complain and then you don't make anything, then, you know, you didn't make anything.
But complaining is so fun.
Yeah, it is still very fun. Yeah, but like, I think that like they made a community that was like really nice, and I got a lot of my actors from that, and a few writers from that community specifically, because I thought it was really important. They were visible to me. And so that, like, you know, in a one way is like they were visible to me. And so that's why I was able to be like, hey, I really liked your acting in this. Can I pull you over to do a reading for me? And I think that you kind of have to do both. So you have to both be working on community building as well as just boldly getting as many numbers as you possibly can. And I do both. I think the community is like really useful. I think that like, you know, I had 5 people. It was a closed reading for the Gay High show. It was a closed reading. I only had 5 people come, but one of them was David Zinn. So like it, you know, that is like somebody who hopefully is talking. I mean, that's the thing, you never really know, but like hopefully is talking about like what I'm doing and is saying like, this people are doing it. Like people are trying. And so like, to me, it's definitely a do both kind of situation.
Cool. Jared in the chat says these platforms have been my go-to entertainment during all of this, as opposed to traditional content delivery. So, I mean, you're absolutely right that like communities are there to build. It is just about figuring out how to signal boost, how to drive them there.
Yeah, and how to find them.
What is preventing you from standing up? I mean, because I'll admit, like, I was so aware of your ideations online and you presenting like, I'm doing this stuff, but I didn't know I didn't know there was anything public facing. And so how do we see the gay heist show?
Well, you see it by by telling people about it and saying that it exists, because we're still like trying to get money for it.
Okay.
I've literally waived, like, I've been like, you can have the script for free, you can have my work for free, basically just to pay the actors and pay, you know, the director, who may or may not be me at this point, I don't know, and like, let's get it out there. And so there are like some things in the works that are happening. Me and my friend Vanessa, who is hilarious, who was Violet in the reading, you know, all of my friends and all of, you know, people came in, and so she's looking for those things right now. She's taking like a producer's lab, and hopefully she might be able to help me produce it in April. Like, that's a thing. Like, one of the things that she suggested was crowdfunding. And the thing that always gets me very wary of crowdfunding is it's like I am aware that, like, you know, that I am going to be asking my friends and family for money, sure, but also I want to be able to like grow an audience from it and say, like, how all of you people who have been saying that, like, you know, you want to support me, I hope are at least going to boost the fact that there is one. So, you know, that there is a crowdfunding happening for it. So I would be interested in like that capacity of what would be happening. But I have many, many other shows that I talk about at length against people. People are like, Kelly, you should not be telling people on Twitter what your ideas are, because they can take them. And I'm like, this is fine. If they take them, then it's fine, because I want more shows to happen. I would like to be like so busy by the end of this year doing shows that people like can see that it becomes a serious art form, because it deserves it. There's a lot of really cool things. You know, our offering is a majority Black and brown specific cast who are all queer. And that's very important to me. It's why almost all of my shows are BIPOC and queer casted together, because like you never see those narratives that are like not based on something bad happening to either party. And then if they are both, you can guarantee that it's one of those things. So like, it's kind of like, along with being very forward thinking in terms of tech, I also want to be able to bring these stories to the forefront. And so I hope that that's how you can support me. And that's like very social media of me, like follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram.
However you need to feel supported. I mean, that to me, that's the most important part, is to ask the artist, how can we help? Not to be like, here, I'm helping.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like, that doesn't help.
Yeah. Because there's a VR idea that I wanted to talk to you about at some point. I mean, one of the things that you me over was it well, it wasn't the VR Sunday in the Park, it was something else, but I had an idea for Sunday in the Park with George. That's not the real idea. The other idea is a coffee shop play that's in VR that was basically about, because a lot of people talk about like, what is the experience with VR? Like, what is the theater experience with VR? And to me, the thing that everybody likes about live theater is also about a singular experience versus an experience with an audience. So the reason that Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet was so cool was because it was a literal experience. People were giving you shots, people were throwing pierogies at you in the audience, you know. That was an experience, you know, and people take for granted even the most linear of experiences, like Dear Evan Hansen, that was not really, it was very traditional. That experience, you're still experiencing it with other people. You're still hearing sniffles. You're still crying with other people.
Right.
What are the experiences to me that could be singular? And those are the experiences that go into VR for me. I'm very into like the point of view kind of experiences. And that's what the Sunday in the Park show to me is a very point of view. It's a very singular artist journey. And so the other one I had was just like designing a coffee shop, basically designing a coffee shop, and then having a lot of my friends write these queer love stories that happen in this cafe, and you yourself are somebody who's just sitting at the cafe and just watching. So like simultaneously there are like 4 love stories happening around you, and you're just kind of sitting there and watching them all unfold. And then in the end, because I'm a sap, like somebody like comes down and is like, hey, I see you in the coffee a lot. Can I buy you a latte or something? And then they sit down across from you, and then like you either have a conversation or that's where it ends. But like that's like my thinking is like there are all of these interesting experiences that can happen. And I think that's why I was so into immersive theater even before all of this happened, is because like that's the architect in me, is like crafting the experience for the audience member.
I love that. Do you see that being a one-to-one, like it's a singular, where there's one ticket, there's one audience member, or do you see that being a full coffee shop of like 20, 30 spectators that are coming together as a synchronous audience watching the show, and then the cast, or you partner up audience members to have a conversation in the coffee shop, buy each other a coffee after the show? Like, how do you see the scale of that looking?
I think it would be like a really intimate one-person experience. I don't think that there would be anybody else with them. Like, I think it would be, I mean, it probably wouldn't be virtual theater. To my own definition, it probably wouldn't be virtual theater. It would be more of an experience, like a VR experience. But I still think that it's worth exploring, because I think eventually we are going to start talking about it. And so I would be very interested in starting to define the terms, especially with like the singular, and talking about it. What I love so much, and this is something else that I'll yell about on Twitter when I'm not yelling about virtual theater, is I have a lot of revival ideas. So like talking about things that are different in the framing of something that is so familiar is something that I am very interested in. So like talking about Sunday in the Park with George, but in a VR experience, something that Sondheim could have never have conceived,
right,
but I think would enjoy, honestly. And then doing something like, something that this isn't even a digital idea. This is just a straight up like other idea that I have, which is doing Waitress, but making it about Chinese immigrants in the Mississippi Delta, and like experiencing like what racism is in relation to the commodification of Chinese tourism, like understanding like what that really is, and then what that means to the people who work there and the person who conceptualized it, whose name is Old Joe, which I appreciate. I really love Waitress a lot. But like, so I think that it's so interesting because it relates these conversations, to other people, which I find is hard to do when you do immersive theater and you're trying to tell people about like your immersive design and people are just zoned out. And then you can be like, oh, but I want to do it with Sunday in the Park with George.
right.
And all of a sudden they're like, oh, tell me more. Like, and it's like, and so that's how I really like to relate a lot of my ideas. I also just really like musicals. That's like what I was brought up on.
Have you done a musical?
It's very good. Sorry.
What? No, go for it.
Your version of, I think it was Finishing the Hat.
Yeah.
Was very good.
Oh, thank you.
I was like, oh, this is so good. I was just like, and then I yelled about it on every social media platform I have.
But to me, that's such a great example of like, you conceptually had and you have such a director's vision. I want to kind of throw you under the bus about that.
That's
like,
fine.
People designer all day, but you sound like a director to me. But you had this concept that was, and I was like, great, let's do it. Right. Like, let's cut out that painting. I can sing inside of it. Done. And so in some ways, like, I feel like the bar is so low right now to just spin up a proof of concept, even if it isn't the full version. So when you talk about like the coffee shop, I'm like, Kelly, build the coffee shop. We'll put it in 3D space, and then, actors can perform inside of it. Like, that sounds awesome to me. And there's nothing stopping us from doing it, particularly while everyone's sitting at home and have nothing better to do.
Yeah, I think that one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite things that I ever learned from architecture school, which is why I like refuse to say that it wasn't worth going to architecture school, is the work ethic I got out of it. And then the second thing was these process books that I like make, basically. And so I have, if you go onto the website that I gave you, kellyanneLynnHayes.com. I'm sorry, it's a mouthful for me too. And it's, if you go on there, there are for certain ones, especially like Marry Me a Little, and then Chinese Waitress, I believe also. Oh, are you going to screen share?
Yeah.
That's
That's what we're doing.
That's great.
So walk me through it. Walk me through it.
Okay, so if you just go into my work,
boom,
and then it'll take you right to all of the set design stuff that I'm doing.
Yes.
If you go down to Marry Me a Little, and you click on that, in the description it should say book link. So link to book, or on the writing on the column.
Was it the very top?
Yeah, it's at the top. It should say.
Is it this thing?
You're sitting on top of it.
I can't click it.
You can't click it because I didn't know how to add hyperlinks. But if you copy and paste,
I copy and paste it.
Yeah, if you copy and paste it, it'll bring you to basically a bunch of concept books that I've been working on for certain things. The Marry Me a Little book isn't even a real design that people have paid for. Like, it's just a free set design. If you want to do Marry Me a Little, call me, because it's already set designed. I literally have everything planned out by the number.
This is amazing.
Thank you. And that's what I learned from architecture school.
I will be your mama bear for a second and just say that, my mom would always tell me, like, why aren't you making money on this? You could 100%, I get called about like 10 shows a week that people are like, my high school is doing this or my college is doing this. Like, to be able to bring this level of what I would say is dramaturgy for design to a show, this much thoughtful preparation of how the execution might occur, I think there's a great business model here. You could be designing, because these could be actual shows that then you could point to be like, no, we stood it up. It worked. Because this book is beautiful. This is incredible that you did all this work.
Thank you. But what's really funny is if you look at the date in that thing is from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like I've been yelling about this for like 10 months. And so it's just a really interesting, I'm planning on making one for the coffee shop. I'm planning the other show that I literally just came up with last week is a dating sim.
Okay.
Sim similar to like a virtual novel play where like you have a main character, they have 8 love interests, and then at the end you pick the love interest. Like, that's a whole thing. So I have a lot of different like ideas that I just like, I keep saying I just have to put into books and then just send out. You can literally tell where because like you can literally tell on my website like where the virtual design starts. So the last 4 projects on the bottom of that is actually my thesis that I did in college. So I designed 4 shows without knowing how to set design in architecture school.
Amazing.
Was an architect who was incredibly nice and was incredibly giving. Her name is Trudy Watt, and I miss her so much. And she was like the avant-garde architecture professor. And so I brought this idea to her, and she was like, yeah, I'll totally do that, like with you for your independent study. And so that was kind of like what kicked it all off. But there's just that was just like the books have been happening since before, because that's just like how I get my ideas out. I can show people them and then they're impressed by it. I remember going to an interview for NYU because I was thinking about going to grad school, which I'm still very meh about because money. But like I remember showing like the book and they were like, this is a little bit like too put together. I was like, excuse me? And they're like, we want to see like some like sketches, which like, valid. But like, it was just really interesting to like, be like, this is like a little bit too put together. Like we're used to like people bringing in like binders full of drawings because a lot of the other people who come in are artists. So fair, it's fair. And so it's really just interesting seeing the different like reactions to those books, because I also have not seen those ever really be made about shows. Also probably because it's giving away free designs.
Sure. So how do I stand up, so you've got these books, right? How would you stand up one of these books? How would you say like this, how would you calculate a budget or assess a budget that you would need to be like,
Mhm.
all right, here's my coffee shop book, or here's my She Kills Monsters.
Mhm.
This is like the price point for what you're looking at on the page, how we stand it up, and bring it to life. Like, what is that process for you from how you've laid it out in the book to then taking it to the quote unquote stage?
Well, I kind of, hopefully if I'm not a producer on it, then I don't have to worry about a lot of that. I think that what's really cool about set design is that I made all of those backgrounds, and that's literally the set of the show. That's it. Like, what's really unique specifically about Marry Me a Little is that it's done. The only thing that you would really need to worry about would be, of course, the green screens, the mics, but like, I'm doing a virtual show right now called Why Are You Like This with Pulley and Buttonhole. And that's on my Instagram. And that one is it's more about me doing my own sound design and everything, because the backgrounds are pretty simple for it. But like, that's, we used $1 tablecloths. We bought $1 lime green tablecloths at dollar store.
Yep.
Send it to the actors, and that's what they're using. We did there I am. There we are. And so we did the same exact thing. It's this weekend. And we did the same exact thing for She Kills Monsters, as we bought like, I think $12 swatches of fabric, and then we just sent them.
That's what this is.
Yeah. It's so like, people don't realize it's so easy. The only thing that I would say that you have to be careful of is what your actors are using for mics, and then also how their cameras are and their Wi-Fi connections. And I think that a few of those things you should be able to secure pretty well. And there are a lot of tips and tricks. If you have lighting designer friends, they're great for green screen stuff. So like, if you're looking to hire a lighting designer who's out of work, hire them to help you troubleshoot with your actors their green screens. Give people money, give people work. And same with like, sound designers. Sound designers are I hope doing very well, because they're doing audio shows, and there's like a lot of, sound design seems to be like, to me, like one of the most widespread thing that's been happening. Scenic designers have been out of work, and lighting designers and everything, and video projection designers, and also sound designers seem to be like, hopefully they're doing well. I hope that they're doing well, because I love them, and they deserve money.
We got Jared in the chat saying that has been a decent part of my COVID income. LOL, remote lighting
design. Yeah, that is very helpful, and I appreciate it, because I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to. It was so funny, because Pulley and Buttonhole, they had me in like to their tech thing, and it was mostly like the director Bridget like being like, okay, do you have this turned on? And I was just sitting there, and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm learning a lot. And like, I was the set designer. Like, so it's a very like, collaborative art form currently, and so I'm very excited to kind of like just keep doing work until someone notices me. I joke all the time, I'm just going to keep writing plays until people kind of see the things I'm doing and then decide to produce them.
Well, I'm glad that I noticed you. I'm glad you noticed me. This has been an absolute delight. I've taken an hour of your time. Thank you so much for talking so much about your process. Again, if you're just joining, this is Kelly Lynn Hayes. This is Homebodies. You can join the conversation at homebodies.live. That's homebodies.live. We've got a Discord channel set up specifically for talking about kind of what people are doing when they are homebodies stuck at home, especially the artistic community. Kelly, any way that I can collaborate and support the work that you're doing, it excites me so much. It is so in alignment with everything that I'm doing. So, please just stay in touch and let me know how we can keep building the darn sandbox so that we have somewhere to play.
Yeah, I'm gonna go into the Discord. I'm gonna go find the link to the Discord and hop in the Discord.
Sounds good. Well, thanks.
Hi. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Kelly. Everyone follow her. It's so many different places, but Kelly Lynn Hayes Designs on Instagram, Kelly Lynn Hayes on Twitter, kellyandlynnhayes.com, correct? Did I get
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
For just all the portfolio, all those books. That's free design work, y'all. Her design, get inspiration, and then pay her, hire her. Call her up, email her, hire her to design your next virtual event or virtual show. I guarantee you will not be disappointed based off of everything we saw today. She was over prepared for grad school applications. Come on. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation in front of people.
Thank you. I always say I'll see people on Twitter in like 10 minutes. So like, I'll see you like in an hour on Twitter.
Perfect. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Kelly for coming on the Homebodies and chit-chatting. I did lose track of time because she has such a unique perspective, specifically on a medium that I've actually avoided. Like, to me, Zoom was so limited with the little boxes early on that I looked for every other way to perform. And so seeing someone who has thrived in that ecosystem and brought so much creativity and ingenuity to it is really, really exciting. I'm going to take a quick break and very quick, just enough to fade out this music and fade it back in so we can get to our Novid news. That's viral news stories, not about a virus, and the virtual video village. This is the Homebodies, homebodies.live, homebodies.live, a daily escape from your news feed and the one thing everybody is talking about. And we'll be right back in a moment. Hello. Welcome back to the Homebodies. I didn't go anywhere, neither did you. That's okay. I'm so glad you're here. We just had a lovely talk with Kelly Lynn Hayes, a designer, scenic designer, and really, I think, secretly an amazing virtual director. She has so many creative insights into how to just stage the shows thoughtfully, which I absolutely love. But before we lose track of the time completely, we have to get to...
Novid news. Viral stories, not about a virus.
Cat in an airport. Random acts of kindness. And happy birthday, MJ. It's Novid news. Viral news stories, not about a virus. These are just some quick hits I'm pulling from the internet and our Discord channel. Feel free to join the conversation and submit your own Novid news at homebodies.live. That's homebodies.live. A cat was lost for 3 weeks in Toronto airport, emancipated and filthy after going missing for weeks in Canada's largest airport. Dewey the cat was finally reunited with his grateful owner in Winnipeg Wednesday evening. His owner was moving back to Winnipeg from Montreal with his 2 cats. He took a flight on January 16th and traveled with his cat Vida in the cabin and paid $105 for his other cat Dewey to travel in the cargo area. During a layover at Toronto's Pearson International Airport, the front gate of Dewey's crate fell open and the cat escaped inside Air Canada's baggage warehouse and has been wandering around, living large in the airport. It reminds me of that Tom Hanks movie, Terminal. I would 100% see a reboot or reimagining of that movie, all with cats. I'm here for it. So get on it, internet. The gift that keeps giving. Checking in on my own personal timeline, this is the 11th day of bringing back the Homebodies, which ran for 8 weeks consecutively last year. Then I got derailed with stuff behind closed doors, and I was like, I miss the community. I miss making the show. And so we brought it back this year, and I'm trying to hold myself accountable. I know that this week got away from me. The last 2 shows I've been offline. So thanks for your patience as I came back. This is my 344th day of full quarantine and 358 days since my life completely derailed when I got sick and had to become an indoor cat, not in an airport, just to be clear, just an indoor cat in my own home. Getting back to our Novid news, viral news stories, not about a virus. It's Random Acts of Kindness team in Massachusetts based nonprofit Sophia's Angels has left blankets around Boston Commons to help keep the homeless warm this winter. Massachusetts is a right to shelter state, but there apparently are enough exemptions that it doesn't happen in practice. Obviously, homelessness is especially what is it? It's people who are unhoused is the proper term, I believe. Is an increasing problem, especially with the way the economy is going, especially with the impact COVID has had, especially the places where there have not been restrictions on evictions. And so I think it's incredible that they're going out into the snow and trying to at least provide some basic warmth, some basic supplies. Meanwhile, in Texas, there was trending stories last night for community members who were driving around picking up folks who are without heat to give them a free motel room for the night. So incredible, the community coming together in this time, trying to support as best they can. Let us know if there's a charity or group in your local area that is helping out community members that are unhoused or dealing with shutdowns or shutoffs or blackouts, so that we can maybe, I donate all of my videos to different charities. So let me know so that we can kind of divert attention and divert funds to support those groups.
COVID-19, the top viral stories not about a virus.
And finally, happy birthday to Michael Jordan, NCAA champion, rookie of the year, 6-time champion, 6-time finals MVP, 5-time MVP, 11-time All-NBA team, 11-time leading scorer, 14-time All-Star. And the only good thing that this Duke fan will admit about the University of North Carolina, it may date me, it may age me, but growing up, Michael Jordan was the be-all, end-all of athletics, and also just of kind of giving back to the community, being more than just defined as a single sport or as a single kind of personality. He had an incredible kind of entrepreneurial campaign. He had an incredible ability to get into kind of the commercial marketplace, doing endorsements, just really a legacy that I will never live up to. Just an incredible athlete, human person, citizens, all the things. So happy birthday to Michael Jordan. Those are our Novid news, our viral news stories not about a virus. Of course, you can join the conversation at homebodies.live. That's homebodies.live. I'm going to segue now to our final segment of the day when we come back on the Homebodies. So stick around. Welcome back to the Homebodies, a daily escape from your news feed. And the one story that everybody is talking about, the hour has really flown by today. Thank you to Kelly for having a great conversation about virtual theater in our future stages. We just wrapped up our Novid news, and now, of course, it's our virtual video village. Traditionally, on a film set, the crew can see what's happening on a cluster of screens to make changes and collaborate. This is called Video Village. As a scrappy storyteller, I've never had the budget to do this on my films, but now that we're all working from home, I want to share a single take from a day of filming to collaborate with you, the virtual community. As Hollywood and Broadway remain shut down, how do we tell stories in isolation? To explore this, Ashley Clements and I are creating a film in chronological order. Each day, we improv the next scene in our story, set up cameras, rehearse, film each other. We don't know where the story is going, and we invite you to join us for the adventure, give us feedback, and even collaborate as our virtual crew and cast. The Homebodies is a fully improvised dramatic story about a couple in financial trouble who turn to the world of adult camming to pay the bills. Many of our scenes involve in-world videos and FaceTime calls where we allow you to improvise your own side of the conversation and put yourself in the movie using hashtag HomebodiesLive. Basically, when we improvise a story, if there's potential for a phone call or a video chat or something happening on a screen, I then release the Video Village clip of the day on TikTok. So that people can use the duet feature and put themselves in the film. We basically leave gaps in the dialogue for where you would be talking, and you can make up the script like we are and put yourself in the movie. Just a fun way for us to bring the spirit of collaboration in Hollywood to remote quarantine filmmaking. So let's crank up some music and, of course, drive back into our Video Village for today. This today was a real struggle. We wanted one of these long tracking shots because so much of the story is taking place with these two people stuck at home together. And so we wanted to really open up that world. So we went to a parking lot, empty parking lot, and showed Ellie, Ashley's character, trying to, basically she's walking into work, thinks it's a normal day at the office. And I'm waiting for it. I don't want to give the big reveal, but she realizes that her office is completely locked and shut down. She gets into the company Slack and realizes that everybody has been laid off, and that the company has been shut down for embezzlement, and she no longer has a job. And she was kind of the financial provider of the household. And so we wanted kind of a very cinematic, see what we could do with our cinematography, really extend my abilities of doing a tracking shot of following her all the way from the car to the office to find that it's locked. Spoiler alert, when COVID's happening, everything's locked anyway. So the location is free because every door is locked. So you go to an empty parking lot, you walk into a building, it's locked, and you walk away. Great production value. You will notice the shot got really shaky, and we're actually trying to figure out what to do with this in real time. This is 2 shots put next to each other. At some point, I walk past a kind of fountain water feature in front of the building, and I'm trying to figure out how to hide the match cut to take it from one scene to the next scene, because we really like the first part of the first take and the second part of the second take, trying to blend those together. We could go all the way to the door and back. It's just not as good of a shot, and we're trying to make it as fluid a moment as possible. So this is one of these places that on the day we had the shot, it wasn't doing what we wanted it to do. We tried to divide it into 2 pieces, find a cut point, and now in post-production, we're trying to see if we can make that happen. And it's indie filmmaking. We didn't have a crew, we didn't have support, so I probably did it wrong, and it probably won't work, and we'll have to like revert back to something else or get creative in the edit. But it's a little glimpse into what we are trying to do for this story. So that is today's virtual video village. If you have any questions, ideas, insights, let me know in that chat. I know folks are at homebodies.live or homebodies.live, as well as in Instagram. Hello, hello. Jared says you can roto the fountain and treat it as a third element. That's interesting. So I would basically cut out that water feature in the foreground and put it just on top, or kind of like cover it up, or even maybe just invent a fountain, right? Like I could just put kind of anything dark in the foreground to kind of mess up the image so that we kind of eclipse something and then we come back on the image. That might be a thing. Thanks, Jared. I'll throw that chat up there. If anybody else has any ideas or insights, let us know how we might kind of take this approach. I really got inspired. I did a movie called The Daylong Brothers that has not been released yet, but we did a lot of really long single takes where basically the actors changed the frame. So we would start in like super close-ups, and then we would walk away and become more of a wide shot. And then sometimes if someone would join, it would become a 2-shot or a medium. Like the idea of the actors more theatrically moving through frame to create the storyboarding rather than cut to different sizes of close-up, wide, medium, is really exciting and really fun. And so this was a way of trying that out to see if basically Ashley could control the size of the frame, as I kind of followed her, to kind of give us more insight or less insight into what her character was experiencing and give us kind of visual diversity. So that is our virtual video village of today. Jared says, when is the release? You're looking at it, Jared. This is what we do. We're shooting it in chronological order, making it up as we go along, getting feedback from the community. And then hopefully by the end of this will have been my accountability to actually edit the movie and stitch it together. So we'll have a thing, and then we can all have a Homebodies premiere. I don't know. We'll talk it out. That's something that our Homebody producers at home can help us out with, right? That's the whole thing we're doing. This has been the Homebodies. My hour is up, and I do actually have to do other things. But thank you so much for spending your day with me. It's been exciting to kind of get out of my newsfeed and escape the one thing everybody is talking about. Be kind to each other. Be supportive to each other. Go follow Kelly's work online. Get off social media, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Homebodies.